All right, welcome back to Mastering Menopause. Today, I am so pleased to be joined by Elise Tzurkov, who is a badass coach, but also a friend, and we have a lot of fun hanging out at conventions. So I am the best roommate, right?
You are. You are.
So.
Your power naps, Kathy. I mean, they're golden.
That and the fact that I don't hear.
It's very synergistic.
Yeah. So, no, I'm excited to come on and have you come on, and we're going to talk a little shit, I think, about some things that are going on in the coaching space right now, and tie this into what your approach is to coaching, what your philosophy is, and just the kind of sifting through the noise that is in this space right now, especially for women that are in the perimenopause, menopause state. So what brought you into fitness?
Yeah, love it. Well, thanks for having me, first off. What brought me into fitness? I was always in it because I was a dancer, actually. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I started off dancing, and then at 14, I fell in love with the weight room at the local YMCA, and when I was 18, I switched from all things dance to all things body. And so it's all I've ever done. It's kind of all I've ever studied. I've had this obsession with just understanding the physiology and just all parts of the body, fitness, nutrition. And then as I've aged so gracefully, I find that I've always doubled down with whatever stage I was in. So when I was going through babies and birthing and all that kind of stuff, I was really dialed into pre and postnatal. So I spent about 7-8 years in pre and postnatal fitness, and then now, being 45, I'm definitely in the perimenopause and menopause space. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your coaching philosophy?
What's my coaching philosophy? Wow, you just ripped the Band-Aid off, Kathy. No, no sugarcoating it. Very much client-centered. My answer for everything is going to be one sentence, which is, it depends. So I'm going to say that's my coaching philosophy. It depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's going to be a perfect segue to talk about what is. I feel like there's always been some, kind of polarizing content as far as, or opinions, I should say, about how to coach women. But right now there's just such a huge, it's I'm right, you're wrong kind of dynamic going on. And it's unfortunate because when we say that we're coaches, we're implying that we want to help people.
Right.
And having that, like you said, it depends. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach to anything. So we, Elise and I, we were at the Real Coaches Summit, and we saw a presentation on menopause. I thought it was a great presentation. I didn't agree with every single thing in there, but so what, right? This woman, what was it called? It was make menopause your bitch, right? So there was a lot of attendance there, and there was some pushback on the content that she had shared, which was unfortunate. And then it ended up just being this huge thing online with some people that are high up in the, I guess, menopause world. They've written books and they're doctors, big fucking deal, right? But they are kind of a big deal, in the way that they came for it, not even having seen the presentation, based on what one person called out, saying that this shouldn't have happened, they shouldn't have been there, they could have found somebody else for the presentation, was just ridiculous. And I think that is really the state of what's going on right now in the freaking coaching space with women especially. And it's so overwhelming already, and now we're just clouding the issue and not helping any women. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God, I have so many thoughts. So I agree with you. I feel like this space is becoming, and it's not saturated. I don't care what anyone says. People think it's saturated because it feels like a very small world, but it's not. But I think we have to really understand and take a step back and say, why do I coach and who do I coach? And I'm a big believer in supporting other coaches and being professional at all and being very diplomatic. I will say I really enjoyed this presentation. Like any other presentation, Kathy, I don't agree with everything, but that's I mean, that's what makes us human. I'm not going to agree with everything you say, but that doesn't mean I can't respect you or, you know, ask questions. Especially when there are males who are questioning it and saying it's not true. Like I'm sorry, what the fuck do you know? You're 30 years old. Like, you're a 30-year-old male. You don't really have that type of pain that women do. So I just think that the coaching space is almost getting a little bit fucked up, in which can I swear? Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fucking losing. I messed that one up, but yes.
Are you going to beat me out? Because I can turn that down. Okay, the coaching space has become a little bit messed up, where I think some people for marketing are going against other coaches. And I don't like that. So I would say, if you have something to say, then say it. But I am this whole like trend of taking someone else's content or information, presentation, and then using that as the backdrop for your marketing campaign, I think that's pretty gross. I also think it's extremely immature, like high school level immature. And I think, you know, I personally wouldn't respect someone or go to a coach that got popular, you know, by slamming down other coaches. I think there were other ways to say, hey, I don't agree with this, or I see things differently. And, you know, this space is very nuanced. I think that everyone's trying to make a name for themselves. This space in perimenopause and menopause seems to be very trendy, which is very frustrating. I see a lot of young coaches that are tapping into this market because they think it's hot. And so I understand that this market gets attacked very easily, and there's a lot of women who are in pain, and there's a lot of women that are being taken advantage of. But I also think that it is up to each person to do their research. There's no certification that puts us on social media saying, I know what I'm talking about. You know, at the end of the day, people are going to resonate with whichever coach they decide to work with. This coach isn't even a coach. She's a registered dietitian. She's got clinical experience. She's helped thousands of women. And I think that like that alone speaks volume. So the space is becoming a little bit competitive in a very immature way. But again, there's a lot of 30-year-olds that are fighting with each other on this.
Yeah. So absolutely. And it's just so like, it's like the battle to be who's the rightest, and that doesn't help anyone. Like there's so many different approaches to how you're going to help someone going through perimenopause and menopause. You know what was funny too is like nobody fucking questioned, I'm not going to say his name, but the sleep protocol that involved Unisom. Nobody fucking called that out.
There's a lot of things that weren't called out. So that's what I'm saying is that
no, but I mean, nobody went after that male presenter.
Right.
Like,
but I think if you
I question that. I'm not going to question him and say like that's wrong, but I'm like,
that just goes, you know what, honestly, I stick with my integrity. I feel like integrity for me, while it's not a company core value, it is a personal core value. And so it goes against my integrity of a coach to give any client misinformation, and it goes against my integrity as a coach to bash another coach or to publicly humiliate them for the sake of my social climbing or upbringing. I'm not going to do that. That's not me. If I didn't agree with something or I was genuinely like, what the fuck, I would approach that person directly and say like, hey, I don't get that. There's a lot of shit. I mean, you weren't there last year, but last year there was like a ton of sessions, like so many more. And there was a lot of things that I was like, oh my God, that's great. And then other things I was like, oh, this is just not for me. I would never think about blasting it, ever.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was funny, like, because I don't know the guy that put out that original post, but it was like, tell us who it is, and I'll send you a message. Like, I was just like, ugh, like,
yeah, like, stop it.
Yeah, but when you have, like, the bigger names were kind of weighing in on that, not knowing, like, anything, hadn't seen the presentation, just based on a couple slides, and I was like, how can you comment on this, you know? But they did, absolutely.
Well, and then I also think of it like, what makes someone an expert, right? So there's basically, like, 3 ways to make someone an expert. Either they have the educational experience. They have the personal experience, right? I've suffered with this. I've done it myself. It works. Or they have the clinical experience. Who would you want to work with, right? So like personally for me, I want to work with someone who's got the clinical experience. And this person actually had academic knowledge as well. But like, show me someone who has success with thousands of women, and that's the one I'm going to want for my own support. So, you know, I think it just comes down to, and this is what kind of is really hard about social media, is that it's up to the, like, viewer discretion is advised, right? Just because someone has a following of 1 million people or thousands of followers doesn't mean they're right. They might be, you know, cheeky. They might be, they might just resonate with a lot of people. Like, whatever it is, does not make them right, does not make them right for you. And I know a lot of people, like when people work with me and I always say to them, like, what resonated with you most about me? Like, why me? They'll just say, you don't seem perfect. Like you seem real. And, you know, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to be real. I'm going to give it to you real. I'm going to tell you things you're not going to want to hear, but I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to slam someone else. If someone comes to me and they're like, it's between you or Kathy, I'm not sure. In fact, someone did come to me and she was looking at Casey Joe to coach with. And she was like, yeah, I'm not sure. And I'm like, Casey Joe's great. I did a mindset certification with her. She's fucking awesome. And I said, go with Casey. Like, she's great. If you're coming to me asking me who, I'm not going to tell you who's better. It's up to you. So I was like, go to Casey. You'll get a great result. Either way, you're going to get a great result.
Yeah. Who'd you go with?
You know what? I don't think she went with anybody. Maybe she went with Casey.
She's shopping around.
She's shopping around.
Any client?
I'm here to support women. Like, I would never tear down another woman. Ever.
Exactly. It's like, if I can't help you, I know somebody that can, right?
Right.
I don't think we're a good fit to work together then, you know, but just at least get the help, right? Shop around, fine, you know, but if you're going to shop for the cheapest, what do you think you're going to get?
Yeah.
100%. You know, like, honestly. Yeah. So, yeah, I get the price objections all the time. Like, oh, that's how much that is. You know, it's like, I don't know what people were expecting as far as like a coaching experience, but if you were going to get a true coaching experience and have somebody texting you and talking to you all throughout the week, setting up protocols, setting up your training, checking in on you, yeah, that's going to be an investment on helping you change your life. And
well, yeah, and I mean, I can go on about this forever, but women are just notorious for investing in anything but themselves. And I think that when you drop a price point to a woman, it's like, oh my God, they think of right away what else I could do with that money. It's like, oh, I just can't afford that, right? But really, when you think about it, if you're going to be paying for a personal training or like meal plans, and you're paying for apps, and you're paying for gym, you're paying for all the things, you're actually saving money by coaching with one person, with a strategy. But a lot of women like to pay with time. They truly feel that, you know, I can do this on my own. And that's cool. I like it when women come to me and they've tried it on their own. I think it's in my bio, it's like, come to me after everything else has failed. That's what we're good at. But I think women have a really hard time looking at the bigger picture. And generally what I say is like, yeah, it's going to cost you money. You know, you've tried doing different things. At the end of the day, the money's going to get spent no matter what. In a year from now, that money's gone. It's just a matter of like how many teas and tinctures are you willing to spend your money on before you actually do the right thing, right?
Let me just try this flush first. Flush protocol.
I found this thing online. Yeah, exactly.
I think I kind of think that like Layne Norton kind of started that, like, hey, look at this content and see how wrong it is. But the way that he does it is polarizing. It's Layne.
Yeah.
The way that he presents it is pretty knowledgeable. He does it the right way, but you could tell he has a vendetta.
You know what? I love Layne Norton. I subscribe to his reps. I call him the angry man with an opinion because he's so angry. And he does, and I feel like he started it where he took people's content and talked over it, except he threw so much data at it, right? Mm-hmm. And I like that about him because it's like, show me the data that supports that. You know, I know him and Jade Teta had a big, like, he slammed Jade Teta once. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was such a big slam. And Jade was like, hey, dude, like, we're just all here trying to help everybody. And like, I'm happy to chat this out. Why don't you come on my podcast and we can talk about this as like men? Like, let's talk this out. Don't slam me, but talk to me. And I don't think Lane even responded to him.
But probably hasn't done anything since, right? Like against him. No, he's got it out for Paul Saladino, so.
Yeah. I mean, he's super polarizing too.
Yeah. One last thing on that like space. So I'm sure you follow Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she just wrote her book, and I really like her content. I totally align with women are under muscled and overly fat.
Yeah.
You know, and I think absolutely, and her whole thing is, you know, strength training and, you know, and getting in protein for women. So I love that. She wrote a book. She is a doctor, and she was just on Ed Milet's podcast and saying that walking isn't exercise. And of course, all the
everyone has something to say.
Everybody hopped on that shit. The thing is, that's funny about that is that she's actually not wrong, but the way that she said it is not right either. And so saying that walking isn't exercise, I think people hopped on that piece. But then there was someone that had commented on that from the convention that we went to, and she was like, it actually isn't a great form of cardio for most people.
Yeah.
But Jordan Site was very much had an opinion about it. So
yeah, I think the problem with that, and I know it's gotten so much attention. It was actually my team that brought it to my attention. I hadn't even seen it. Is the definition of exercise. So are we using a subjective term of exercise or an objective term? What defines exercise? So if you're saying exercise is an activity that blank raises your heart rate above resting to a certain percentage, or strengthens the muscle beyond body, whatever it is, then you can say exercise is or isn't. And I think that's where people are getting lost. Now, again, if we're going to generalize it, and we're talking in reference to women most women are under-muscled. We know this. I fully agree. If women, especially women over 40, only focused on building muscle and didn't change anything else in their life, they would be better off without having to worry about any of the other bullshit that they're worried about. So if you were to say, okay, we've got to build muscle, ladies, and then someone puts up their hand and says, so is walking okay? The answer is going to be no. That's not okay. Walking is not enough to get that muscle built.
Air squats work?
Right.
For 1% of the people, yeah.
Right. So I think if you are someone who is, like I said, someone who's like 300 pounds and they walk every day for 20 minutes will likely have it as a quote unquote exercise because their heart rate's elevated. And yes, in reference to like, is walking cardio? I mean, again, it depends. Like, what defines cardio? What defines a cardiovascular activity? Right. Right. Yeah, I know. We got short legs. So if we're walking with someone really tall, it's like, I might as well just do a soft jog. Exactly. I think that with Jordan Side, I didn't see his thing. I mean, again, his feed is all about simplicity, and which I am too, by the way, but just more like he's really talking to the Gen Pop, right? He's talking to the average person, American, who's overweight and needs to move more. That person will do better off walking than going to the gym and doing all the other stuff, because walking is a great form of activity. But is it an exercise? Again, I don't know. That's going to depend. I mean, it's the same thing with NEAT. A lot of people will say, increase your NEAT. You actually can't do that. NEAT is one of the things you can't increase, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And a lot of people will say, well, more steps, more NEAT. It's like, actually no, because steps are scheduled. They are activities. They are not non-exercise activity. They are structured. So there's a lot of nuance around there. I think the bottom line is get the fuck up and move.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And lift weights.
And lift weights. And eat your damn protein.
And fiber.
And drink water. And drink water. But besides that, like, that's it.
Yeah.
But literally, it is just, it literally just what we just said, like, that is the freaking basics. And And there's no protocol, there's no gut health protocol, there's no supplement, there's no vitamin or anything that's going to help make up for the deficiencies if you're sitting up until 1 o'clock binging Netflix and drinking wine and then wondering why you feel like shit when you wake up in the morning. And
yeah. I mean, yeah, if I could simplify everything, I love, whenever I'm on a podcast, I feel like I ask myself this question.
Okay.
If you were to ask me, like, what is the problem here? It's that we live a toxic life, right? And we overeat. So are we trying to undo all the things that we're doing, or are we trying to put a Band-Aid on it? Are we meant to eat out for 60 to 80% of our meals during the week? Are we meant to stay up late and burn the candle at both ends? Are we meant to be sitting at our desk all day long? All these things are no. We're designed to move. We're designed to hunt and gather and cook and feast and famine. Like, that's what we're designed for. But if you're tired because you're working too hard and you decide, I'm getting takeout for the 15th time, and then you're wondering why your pants don't fit and you're tired, but you're like, but I got a salad and a healthy burger, it's still not what we're intended to be.
I did spin 3 times this week.
Yeah, I ran, I'm eating all the healthy things. I had avocado toast. Like, it doesn't matter. So I think, like, if you can kind of look at what would the you of like 100 years ago, even 200 years ago do, that's kind of what it is. Back in the day, going out for dinner was a treat. It cost money. You saved up for it. You got dressed up. It was like a once or twice a year occasion. Now it's a, what's for dinner tonight? Where are we ordering from? You got Uber. You got everything at your fingertips. There's just so much convenience that's happening. So now we're trying to throw Band-Aids and undo it. And are there protocols that will help for that? Yes, absolutely. But is there also a lot of low-hanging fruit and lifestyle modification? Absolutely. And I think that's where most people get really confused, is they're just looking for a reason to not do what they know they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me that missing.
Give me the secret.
Give me the hack. Give me the secret. Yeah.
The magic pill. Yeah.
What's that one supplement that I need to take,
Yeah.
I still get that question. Like, what is the best? What is the best ab exercise? What is the best cardio? Like, what is the best, like, it's like, there isn't.
There isn't. Yeah.
No, there isn't. So.
Yeah.
So, I think we both have the same kind of approach to coaching as far as like simplicity. What do you think is the biggest needle mover for your clients?
Ooh, that's a good question. The biggest needle mover for my clients, this is going to sound fucked up, but hear me out. For most of the women that we see, they're just so obsessed with dieting down. So the biggest needle mover, I would say, is building meals up, which sounds kind of wrong if you're listening to this being like, but. It's like, if you build your meals up, you're less likely to snack. Your body's more satisfied. You're not going to be eating shit. Your hormones will be nicely optimized. You'll probably sleep better, which means you'll have more motivation to move. You'll poop better, so your body will detox better, and you'll probably be solid. But a lot of times women are like, egg whites and spinach and salad and broccoli with chicken, and it's not enough. So for the rest of the day, they're just searching for food. And then it's, what's the best snack? What's the best protein? What's the best this, right?
I need some high protein snacks.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You need a high protein meal.
Yeah.
You need like 3 high protein meals, and then you wouldn't need a snack, because then you could just have a fucking square of chocolate or some fucking popcorn, like what a snack is.
That's a snack. Yeah. I actually just got that. I put on my Instagram, like, ask me any questions, and someone did ask me that. They said, what's the best high protein snack? I can't wait to answer it. I'm going to tag you in that.
Yeah. How about you eat a fucking meal? How about that?
Yeah. How about you eat the meal before that was high in protein, so that you didn't have to have that protein snack? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you even need to snack? I love that, right? I don't know where that came from.
You don't need a snack. Like, it's nice. I have snacks. I love popcorn. I love chocolate. I love Triscuits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have no idea how much protein's in there.
Yeah, I think there's just this like scarcity mindset of like, oh my God, if I don't eat a snack, then I'm going to be hungry. It's like, okay. And if you're hungry, is that such a bad thing? Like, why is being hungry bad?
Well, it's so messed up too, because it's like, if you had a meal, right, a 600 to 700 calorie meal with 30 to 40 to 50 grams of protein, depending on what, like, you wouldn't be hungry.
Yeah.
for those snacks, and then you're saving, but it's just funny because then you ask somebody to do that and they're like, oh my God, this is so much food.
So much food. And you're like, fuck no, it's all, you're not eating. So I just had an 800 calorie lunch. People always get like fall off their chairs when I say that, but I don't really snack. So it's like, yeah, I eat my meals. And that's the problem, is that people think when we say, hey, we're going to build your meals up, they're like, I just can't eat that much food. I'm like, the fuck you can't. Yeah, you are.
You can watch a fucking Sunday brunch, but you can't eat. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see how you can take down the Cheesecake Factory. I know you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. So yeah, there's just so many different approaches to being right is not helping anybody. You know, there's not, you can have the best protocol and get your clients the best results. That's not going to work for every single person, right? There does have to be some nuance, right? There is going to be that woman who is eating 900, really, truly eating 900 calories and trying to get her fed up to 2,000 calories. Like, can't just, I am definitely like rip the Band-Aid off approach, but I also know like asking somebody to double their calories, it ain't gonna happen.
No. Yeah, and I think that like there's a time and a place for everything. We have some clients that do come to us in an extremely stressed, inflamed state. We might do an anti-inflammatory protocol. We might do an autoimmune protocol. We might do low FODMAP. We will kind of go down that venture, but we don't actually make that decision until we get to know them. So it's people first, for sure, and understanding, like, is there some type of autoimmune that they're fighting? What is their body going through? How much dieting have they done? Yeah, we do have the rare occasion where someone's under eating. It's very unusual to see a physique of a, usually the under eaters, like the true under eaters of like 9 to 1,200 calories, their physique looks very soft. So they're thin and they look very weak. They don't generally like the way they're aging because they look like they're just kind of withering away.
Yeah.
And they feel that they need to lose weight because that's all they've done in the past. That's a typical client that we see who's under eating, and we've got to feed them and build them. We have a lot of women who think they're under eating. They are 20 pounds overweight and they're like, I barely eat. And I'm like, the fuck? You're lying to yourself if that's what you think. Because and I always use this as an analogy with my team. It's like if I took this person to a deserted island and only fed them 1,200 calories, which they claim they're eating, would they in fact lose weight? And the answer always is yes. The problem is those women think that they might be eating 1,200 calories some days, and on other days they're eating 3,000 calories in a second, right? Yeah. And so they are eating it over time. They're just, I don't eat until 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's the classic one. I would say that's 90, I don't know the percentage, a lot, the most of them. Yeah, it's like I do great during the week. It's the weekends that's the problem, right? And it's always, so now you have this where you're always dieting mentality. Yeah. You're in the scarcity mindset always, and then it's like then you go overboard with and then beat yourself up for that, right? Just blowing out the calories, and then you find you're like, as an average, like, yeah, no, we are not in a deficit. You know, so.
Yeah, that was me. That was me for years. And I actually truly believed that weekends, like, were okay to do that. I thought that was actually like.
I worked out. I earned it.
Yes! I was like, I can have whatever I want on the weekend because I work out like crazy during the week. Now that I've like, I tell my clients this, it took me about 4 years to really dial in my weekends to realize that I was sabotaging myself. And it's not actually the weekends that are the problem. It's the weekdays that are the problem because you're so fucking strict. So now that I'm out of that mentality, I pretty much eat the same way of eating, whether I'm here, whether I'm traveling, whether it's the weekend. That like the idea of going into a deficit or a diet or a cut, I can't even do it. I don't want to eat less ever. Like I never want to go back to that. Ever.
I'm working with the coach, and I'm like, I need to go into a cut. I really don't want to. I think I'm going to go like after Mother's Day, right? And then she was like, whoa. We don't need to go into a cut.
Yeah.
What are you eating now for calories? I'm like, I don't know. I don't track. Like, and she was like, well.
Oh, so now you got I'm working with a coach too. That's interesting. And we're working on building up my carbs. So I've been building up to 250 grams of carbs, which is a lot for me. And same kind of thing. I'm like, I feel like fluffy. And my coach is like, you actually have lost weight and you don't look fluffy. So I think it's in your head. And I'm like, maybe it's the carbs. And he's like, are you kidding me? So I get it, right?
I sent pictures. I'm like, no, I really am getting fat. And she was like, yeah, well, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, let's track it. I'm like,
You got to track it. How many calories do you think you're eating?
Oh, I was definitely overeating.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. So it's the opposite of overeating, undereating, or just eating undereating, right?
I was definitely like, what was my newest, like Triscuits with cheese on top, right? Like, so like that's my newest thing. And the nuts. I already know exactly what it is. I know exactly what it is. It was the nuts where I usually have this little container that I just scoop it out, right? I don't have to weigh it out because I already know this is a serving.
Yeah.
Just a little less than a serving, which is good. And so my cat like winged it off of the shelf that I usually have, and now it's underneath my couch, so I have to get it. So now I'm just eating it. So now I'm not being held accountable whatsoever. And so then I'll like have 3 of those, 3 big handfuls. And so like I'm like, yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, I think we all. And you know what? That's actually really good for your listeners to hear, because I think, you know, my clients love it when I tell them, like, I'm not perfect. I won't claim to be. I fuck up like everybody else. And this is the other thing that I say when we talk about like moving the needle with clients. The other thing I preach a lot is getting comfortable being uncomfortable, because we are physiologically designed for homeostasis, for balance, for comfort. And so if you have something, let's say nuts, and you're like dopamine response, pleasurable, this was great, I feel satiated, then it's only natural to say, okay, I'm going to do it again. Whether that was favorable or unfavorable to your goals, you're going to do it again because now it feels comfortable. And to remove that or step away from it feels uncomfortable. For me to have a smaller meal might feel uncomfortable. For me to be hungry in between meals and not have a snack might be uncomfortable. A lot of women will struggle with nighttime eating because they sit down at the end of the day, they have a glass of wine, they have something to eat, and that's very comfortable. It's very comforting. They're like, I had a hard day, it makes me feel good. So to not have that is like, well, it's restrictive. It's like, is it restrictive, or are you just like babying yourself with comfort that you're not saying no to yourself? I mean, imagine you had a toddler that wanted candy 24/7. Would you always say yes? And it's like, well, they're going to have a tantrum if they're not. It's like, that's okay. They can be upset.
Well,
you know?
Yeah.
We've all done it.
Right. I will say, like, that binge eating is probably the most damaging to the metabolism, right? Yeah, you have your constant undereating. But being so strict, like, that was my cycle too, was like very, very counting out my almonds, right? Making sure I just had this many calories, and then piling a shit ton of exercise on top of that, right? Marathon training. I was a spin instructor. Like,
me too.
On top, and then on the weekends, just like, again, like blowing it out. And so here we are getting 0 that our body needs. We're like saying, it's like, no, you can't have it. When the body really demands to have the calories for the energy that you're expending. And then on the weekend, when you're probably not doing that and just piling on the calories that the body can now, is like, what the fuck? I can't do anything with this. I needed this, but I can't do anything with this
right now.
Food right now. So
yeah, I think that, like, some people will say it's obsessive or disordered eating if you're like tracking your food or being mindful of your food. But it's the same. I always use the analogy of like a budget of spending, right? It's like if you're making money and you're still in debt, it's like, I don't understand how I'm not saving any money. I'm making all this money. Why am I not spending it? It's like, well, let's see how much you're spending. Let's take some time. It's like, would you say that's ridiculous? That's obsessive? That's disordered spending? It's like, that's responsibility. My son has type 1 diabetes, so he has to be very responsible with food. He has to be responsible with insulin. And that is a very big burden to carry. But I also argue, well, shouldn't we all be responsible with food? This is food that you put in your body. This can harm you. This is going to go against your energy levels, your body composition, your risks of cardiovascular diseases. Shouldn't we all be responsible with every single thing we put in our mouth?
Yeah.
Right?
Very well said. Love it.
Thank you.
What do you think are your clients' biggest obstacles?
Biggest obstacle by far is the overload and overwhelm of information. There's just too many conflicting informations out there of what to do, what not to do, too many nuances, too many, especially with intermittent fasting. Oh my God. Like, really, who hasn't tried intermittent fasting? But it's like, my friend lost so much weight, I'm going to do it. no carbs. So it's just this misinformation and almost analysis by paralysis. I would say most of my clients come to me because they are confused as fuck. And I don't blame them. It's very confusing out there. And especially if you're following a million people, you can, I talked about this the other day on my stories. It's like confirmation bias. If you believe something to be true, you can back it up so easily. If you're like, yes, the answer is the adrenal protocol, or the answer is the flush, or the answer is the gut health, then you can find anybody. It's cortisol. Oh, you can find someone who only works with women who have high cortisol. I have women saying to me, you'll love this. I have women coming to me and they're like, I have high cortisol. And I'll say, how do you know? And they're like, well, it just sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you've never tested? Like, you don't know. Like, how do you know?
I had SIBO. I thought I had adrenal
fatigue.
Adrenal fatigue. What was the other thing I was pretty damn sure I had? I forget.
Insulin resistance?
But, candida overgrowth, yeah, for sure.
Oh, candida overgrowth. Yeah, I have candida overgrowth. I have insulin resistance. I just can't lose weight. Maybe
this came like kind of after my time, but like literally, like of course you're gonna find anything, like even like the classic symptoms of menopause are like the classic symptoms of under eating and over exercising. Like it all ties in. You're gonna have those. So yeah.
And don't forget also, when we look at women in menopause, perimenopause, we're looking at like seasoned women, right? We're not like newbies to life here. So we've had experience 40, 50, 60, 70 years of mindset, beliefs that we've really felt strongly with food. So it's not just physical or lifestyle habits, but it's our beliefs around them too. So, that's a big part of our program we dive into the mindset, because all of our women have had this one belief that if I just eat cottage cheese for 24 hours, I will be fine. And they truly believe that to be the case. And it's like, that's not normal thinking.
Yeah, for sure. It is those years of diets and habits and thoughts around the scale and the food, good foods, bad foods, right? So just not understanding like that, it doesn't just work in a silo for sure. So
yeah.
So what would you like for our listeners to know? Is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, that's a good question. What would I like them to know? I just want, I would love it if every woman felt seen. So if you're out there and you're struggling with, hormones, perimenopause, or just being in a different like transition of life, because we get that too, where we're just like, your kids are getting older, you might have identified as a mom and now your kids don't need you the same, and you're like, oh my God, and there's just like big transition happening and life is changing and it feels kind of like you're alone and there's overwhelm. Is that you are not alone. There are so many amazing coaches out there in the space, and I always say the same thing like you, Kathy. If I can't help you, I'd love to connect you with someone that I think can help you. That's really why I do what I do, is I just want women to feel that they're not alone and that they don't have to suffer. You don't get a prize. No, it's not on your tombstone says she suffered for the last 20 years of her life. We're not going with badges of honor like that. So ask for help, ask the right questions, definitely interview coaches, follow the right people, and unfollow the ones that you don't agree with. Like, that's okay too.
Yeah, I think I need to do an unfollow party myself. It's been a while.
Yeah, we need to do an unfollow party.
But then there is something to it. We say like, oh, like that's not like, I would never do that. But then it's again, you're sitting there like, what the fuck is this? Like,
yeah, I try not to follow too many people in the space that I'm in, or you're one that I do follow, obviously, because you're a friend. But other than friends, I won't really follow people in the same space, because I do find it very sometimes frustrating, very conflicting, or I feel like we're saying the same thing, or, I don't agree with that person. Like, I do follow someone and all she talks about is adrenal cocktails, and I'm like, it's like that train wreck. It's hard to not watch it, but I have unfollowed because it, like I'm human like anybody else, right? You got to watch what you see and what you consume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that is, I think, that's a big thing too, with that overwhelm. And your mind will go, just like when you punch in menopause, right? All of a sudden, all these ads are going to pop up on Facebook, and so you can kind of self-diagnose yourself, and then that's all you're going to see.
That's right.
And then that is like blinding you from like, what's the true thing that's going to help move the needle for you? So
yeah, and I would also say, like, you know, for us, we have a lot of free resources. I'm sure you do too. And so I actually prefer when people reach out to me that they start right there. It's like, I don't even want you working with me until you start downloading some of my stuff, being in my Facebook group, like just get to know me, get to know, you know, my resources, and you'll know right away if you agree or disagree. And if you disagree, that's cool. You know, off you go find someone else. And if you agree, then cool, like come hang out with me.
Yeah. There's so many, like with the coaching, you know, like, being after like, there's not going to be enough for me, right? There is so many. If you're just honest, if you're authentic and genuine, then there are going to be people that connect with that. Yeah, I'm not for everybody, you know?
Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah.
And that's totally fine. Like,
yeah, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. Yeah.
So, so you said you have a freebie?
I do, yes. I have my Menno Belly Blaster. So it's actually my longest freebie in the sense that it's the most detailed, but it's super fucking simple because that's a core value at FFWE. So you can go ahead and grab that. There's a hormone mastery quiz attached to it. If you fill that out, then I'll get back to you with a customized blueprint, give you an idea of where you are. Are you in perimenopause? Are you in menopause? What's that looking like for you? And then steps that you can follow. It's anywhere from like 5 to 10 steps that you can just start doing right now to start feeling better.
Awesome.
Without an adrenal cocktail.
Without doing a drink. Yeah. Wait, but do you have one? I'm kidding.
Yeah. Actually, I probably do. That's the funny part. I probably do.
There just might be one in there. So I'll link all that. I'll link that. I'm assuming that, where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at functionallyfitwithelise.com or functionally fit with Elise, so one word, or functionallyfitwithelise.com is my website. I'm pretty much everywhere there.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't put your last name in there.
I know, right? That would be mean. Yeah. So go ahead, give me a follow, shoot me a DM, let me know that you've listened, and then I can tell you the real stories about Kathy that Kathy After Dark.
You, Kathy?
I was actually not. I actually was hoping that you would come to Orlando last minute, and I had my extra bed.
You know what? I was gonna, and then I was like, you know what? What am I doing? Yeah, I should go. And I looked at the flights. They weren't even going to be that much, right? It was going to be like $300, right? And I'm like, I'll check up with Elise, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then I saw like I had Aram and Jim Helenan like
okay.
For that. And I'm like, duh, I really don't want to like mess that up, you know, like, change it out. So I'm like, dang it. And then I was like, I do actually regret that I didn't go.
Whatever. Next time.
Yeah.
I'll always have a double bed.
Yeah. I'll drop those links, Elise. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kathy. Bye.
Yes, of course.